We're going to discuss exchanging materials. For many single-celled organisms like bacteria, diffusion, osmosis, and active transport are all that this organism needs to exchange material with the environment, because they have a relatively large surface area to compare to their volume. This allows sufficient transport of molecules into and out of the cell to meet the needs of the organism without having to use transport systems like the blood, for example. We're going to discuss a concept called surface area to volume ratio. The surface area to volume ratio is very important in biology. It makes a big difference to the way animals can exchange substances with their environment. So what is the surface area to volume ratio? How do we calculate it? What does it mean? And how is it important when we talk about biological organisms? Look at these two cubes, for example. We have the small cube on the left with a side of 1 centimeter and the big cube on the right with a side of 3 centimeters. What's the surface area of the small cube? The surface area is the side squared times 6. The area of every face of the cube times 6 because we have 6 faces. Side squared is 1 times 1, which is 1, times 6, this makes it 6. So the surface area of the small cube is 6. What's the volume of the small cube? The volume is the side cubed, which is 1 cubed, so it's 1. So the volume of the small cube is 1. The surface area to volume ratio of the small cube is 6 to 1, which is 6. So the surface area of the small cube is 6 times as much as the volume. Let's go to the big cube. What is the surface area? Side squared, which is 9. 3 squared is 9, times 6, that's 54. Surface area of the big cube is 54. What's the volume? What is 3 cubed? That's 27. So that's the volume of the big cube. The surface area to volume ratio of the big cube is 54 to 27, which if we simplify it, it becomes 2 to 1. So that's 2. So the surface area of the big cube is twice as much as the volume of the big cube. So we have in the small cube a surface area to volume ratio of 6 to 1, and in the big cube a surface area to volume ratio of 2 to 1. What do we notice? We notice that the object got bigger and the surface area to volume ratio got smaller. The bigger an object gets, the smaller its surface area to volume ratio becomes. And this applies to living organisms as well. As organisms become more large and more complex, their surface area to volume ratio decreases. And this makes it increasingly difficult to exchange materials quickly enough with the outside world. Diffusion, osmosis, and active transport are no longer enough to exchange materials. Gases and food molecules can no longer reach every cell inside the organism by simple diffusion because the organism is too big, it has too much volume. And metabolic waste cannot be moved fast enough to avoid poisoning the cells. This is because the surface area is no longer big enough to support the large volume of the organism. So in many larger organisms, there are special surfaces where the exchange of materials takes place, and these surfaces are adapted to be as effective as possible. You can find them in humans, in animals, and in plants, and we will talk about these surfaces and their adaptations in the next video.